Good morning, friends. Welcome back to another very important lecture. And today we are going to start with type 1 hypersensitivity. So, without wasting any time, let us start. So myself, Dr. Gibran Ahmed, presents to you Simply Pathology, and today, as I already mentioned, we are going to continue our immunology lectures. So I have already discussed the generalized hypersensitivity reactions. I have discussed the classification of all of them, and I have also discussed in brief all the hypersensitivity reactions, including type 1, 2, 3 and 4. And today we are going to read the type 1 hypersensitivity reactions in detail. So please pay a lot of attention. So immediate type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. So what is it? It is a rapid immunological reaction which is occurring in a previously sensitized individual that is triggered by binding of an antigen to IgE antibody on the surface of mast cells. So this is a very important definition, and all the elements in this definition is important. Now these type 1 hypersensitivity reactions, what are they known as? More commonly they are called as allergic reactions, and the antigens which are triggering such kind of allergic reactions, they are called as allergens. Now the type 1 hypersensitivity reaction are of two main types. One is systemic type 1 hypersensitivity reaction and one is local. What is the meaning in simple terms? Systemic means which is occurring in the whole body, at the level of the whole body, whereas local means at a local level. For example, at the level of the lungs, for example, at the level of our skin. So it's a localized reaction. For example, if a person develops skin rashes, okay, after applying an ointment, so it's a localized reaction. Okay, now just to revise, now these placards have already been discussed before. Just to give you a brief idea about the mechanism of type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. So if you see, any antigen in our body is first presented by an antigen presenting cell, for example the dendritic cells, which is taking this antigen, which is shown in red, and will present it to naive T cells. These naive T cells, on receiving these particular antigens, they are going to differentiate into T helper 2 cells, which is going to get activated and is going to release multiple cytokines, including interleukin number 4, interleukin 5 and interleukin number 13. And once they are released, they have their own actions. For example, the interleukin number 4, they cause class switching to IgE, means the B cells are going to produce IgE antibodies, okay? And these B cells then get converted to those plasma cells which is specifically going to produce IgE antibodies. So, and another important function of interleukin 4 is what? It is additional recruitment of T helper 2 cells. Okay, so ultimately we are having activation of the T helper 2 cells and IgE class switching in the B cells, along with increased production of IgE antibodies. So hope this mechanism is clear. Moving ahead, okay, what happens that once these IgE antibodies are produced, so why they are produced? There will be binding of these IgE antibody to the Fc receptor present on the mast cells. So these are the mast cells and this is the IgE antibody, and these IgE antibody is having an Fc tail, and the receptor for these Fc tail, that is FcERI, is present on the mast cells. So this is how the IgE antibody is going to bind to the mast cell. At this stage, the individuals do not suffer from the reaction. Instead, we say that at this stage, the individuals are said to have been sensitized. When the IgE antibody has coated the mast cell, we say that the individual is sensitized. So now, if there will be a repeat exposure to the same allergen or the same antigen, okay, then what will happen? These IgE antibodies will now activate the mast cells to cause mast cell degranulation, and there will be release of all the mediators which are present inside the mast cells. Now these mediators can be divided into two types, as we have already discussed, and we are going to discuss in details about them in this lecture. So the vasoactive amines, that is histamine, and the lipid mediators, that is leukotrienes and prostaglandins, they are responsible for the immediate hypersensitivity reaction, whereas the cytokines and the chemokines which are released, they set up the stage for the late phase of the reaction. Now moving ahead, Now the type 1 hypersensitivity reaction, they can be systemic or they can be local. So as we said, the systemic hypersensitivity reaction, the examples are, for example, bee sting. Okay, if a bee has stung you, okay, directly some allergens are being injected into your blood, so there will be a systemic reaction. Or in case of a peanut allergy, for example, a person is having allergy to peanuts and he had a peanut, so the reactions can be fatal and the person can develop shock and die. Similarly, there are certain local hypersensitivity reaction which is at a local level. For example, at the level of the skin, we can have cutaneous rash or we can have blisters on the skin. Okay, this is called as skin allergy or hives. Secondly, we can have nasal or conjunctival disease. So you will see there are some persons, always they are having some allergic rhinitis. So whenever they are going outside, okay, whenever they are exposed to certain environmental antigens, they have a burning nose, their eyes become red, they have a running nose, running eyes, okay. So this is called as allergic rhinitis or allergic conjunctivitis. So when there is an inflammation involving the nose, it is rhinitis, and when it is involving the conjunctiva, it is conjunctivitis. Similarly, we can have hay fever, we can have bronchial asthma, and we can have allergic gastroenteritis. Some of you might be thinking, what is hay fever? Actually, hay fever is very similar to some person which is developing, running eyes, running nose. This is what is hay fever is actually. And see, this bronchial asthma means what? At the level of the lungs. Again, it is local. Allergic gastroenteritis. Some people you will see always they are having diarrhea, always they are having stomach pain. So they have some kind of, gastroenteritis, that is an allergic form. And again, it is localized because it is confined to the level of the GIT. Okay, now moving ahead. Now the local hypersensitivity reaction has two parts, as we have seen before. We have an immediate reaction and we have a late phase reaction. So let us see what is this immediate reaction. So remember, as I have already discussed, the immediate reaction is because of the release of histamine, that is the vasoactive amines, and because of the release of lipid mediators, namely the leukotrienes and prostaglandins. So what happens because of them? So I have already discussed in details about their actions in the chapter on inflammation. You can go and see those chapters, okay, the chapter number 3 on inflammation. Now the immediate reaction happens, so because of the release of histamine, as you know, first of all, they will cause vasodilatation, and that vasodilatation can lead to congestion. Okay, also they will cause an increase in vascular permeability, leading to vascular leakage, and ultimately there will be edema. Okay, histamine is also responsible, along with the leukotrienes, they will also cause smooth muscle spasm. So smooth muscle spasm, smooth muscle is present where? In our lungs. Okay, so at the level of the lungs there can be bronchospasms. Okay, again there can be an increased glandular secretion. So all the secretions from our eyes, from our nose, and our GI tract, all secretion in our laryngeal cavity, all these things will start. So these are the three important things about the immediate reaction you have to remember: vasodilatation, increased vascular permeability, smooth muscle spasm, and glandular secretion. Now all these things is immediate, and when I'm using the term immediate, means what? How immediate? These starts within minutes. Okay, within minutes they will start. So these starts within minutes of exposure to the antigen or the allergen, and they tend to subside within few hours. So this is in short about the immediate reaction. What happens during the late phase of reaction? So the late phase of reaction is basically characterized by infiltration of inflammatory cells into the tissue, and these inflammatory cells, okay, they are going to cause tissue damage. Okay, so this phase is characterized by infiltration of the tissues with inflammatory cells. Okay, and there are many cells, for example eosinophils, neutrophils, basophils, monocytes, and CD4 plus T cells. But the most important thing is, the most important cell over here are the eosinophils. So the number one characteristic of the late phase reaction is infiltration with inflammatory cells, mainly the eosinophils. And the second most important point is that there is tissue destruction. Why? Because all these inflammatory cells, they are releasing certain reactive oxygen species, okay, and that leads to tissue damage. Okay, now they are late. As the term is late means how much late? So they are setting in around 2 to 24 hours later, and without any additional exposure to the antigen. For example, today you were exposed to an allergen. For example, you had some peanut, okay, and you had some immediate reaction. Now this immediate reaction, okay, this happened and it subsided. Even after you took away that allergen, means you did not have any peanut after that. Even after that, even after 2 to 24 hours, you will develop a second phase reaction, that is the late phase reaction, which doesn't require any additional exposure to the antigen and can last for several days. Okay, now moving ahead. Now there are some important points that I just want to clear. The role of interleukin number 4, interleukin number 5 and interleukin number 13. So these are important from MCQ point of view as well as Viva questions. So the role of interleukin number 4 in allergic or in type 1 reaction is what? It is going to stimulate class switching to IgE and it promotes development of additional T helper 2 cells. Okay. Similarly, the interleukin number 5 is involved in the development and activation of eosinophils, whereas the interleukin number 13, it enhances IgE production and acts on the epithelial cells to stimulate the mucus secretion. Now, most type 1 hypersensitivity reactions are because of an increased T helper 2 response. So this can come as an important MCQ. So the MCQ can be framed like this, that the type 1 hypersensitivity reaction, okay? So they are going to write one line. So which T cell or which helper T cell is responsible or participates in type 1 hypersensitivity reaction or in anaphylactic reaction? They will give an example. So the answer will be T helper 2 cells. They are playing a major role in IgE production and in promoting inflammation. Moving ahead, now we are going to see the mediators. We have already read about them. So the mediators, okay, they are basically coming from the mast cells, okay, and there are two basic kinds. One is the vasoactive amines and the lipid mediators, which is responsible for the immediate hypersensitivity reaction we already saw before, and the second is the cytokines, which is responsible for the late phase of the reaction. So what is very important over here is that the T helper 2 cells are also releasing certain chemokines, which will itself attract more T helper 2 cells and other leukocytes. So there will be more participation in the type 1 and more amplification of the type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. Now moving ahead, we are going to read about the sensitization and activation of mast cells. Now this is a very, very important question, more so from the postgraduate level. Why I am saying this? Because sometimes you get a short note on mast cells, and then in that situation you get confused what I should write in case of mast cells. So you can safely write about these points, okay? These are very, very important points and can fetch you a lot of marks, okay? Especially when you don't know many things about the mast cells. So mast cells are usually derived from the bone marrow, and they are abundant near the blood vessels, nerves and subepithelial tissue, and these are also the sites of type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. So this explains why the mast cells are found in these certain locations. Mast cells, they have cytoplasmic membrane bound granules which is containing many mediators and which also contains acidic proteoglycans. So just remember one important MCQ over here is that now mast cells, because they are containing acidic proteoglycans, they bind to a certain dye that is called as toluidine blue. So if I have to see that whether certain tissues are containing mast cells, okay, the stain that I am going to use is toluidine blue, and it is again an important MCQ question. So the dye which is used to stain mast cells, so the answer will be toluidine blue. Now, what are the mast cell secretagogues? So my question is, what do you mean by secretagogues? These are those substances that is going to stimulate the mast cells to release their contents or to release the mediators, okay? So number one, you already know the IgE antibody. When it will go and bind to the mast cell the first time, what will happen? There will be sensitization, and the second time that allergen will bind to the IgE antibody which is bound to the surface of the mast cell, that will lead to mast cell degranulation. So what are the other secretagogues? C3a, C5a, chemokine interleukin number 8, drugs like codeine and morphine, melatonin which is a bee venom, physical stimulus like heat, cold and sunlight. So all these things can stimulate the mast cell and can lead to mast cell degranulation. So what question can come? The question that can come over here is that all of the following are mast cell secretagogues except, and then 3 options will be from here and 1 option will be somewhere from outside. So this is how they can form questions, okay? Now moving ahead, both the mast cells and basophils, they are same. Actually, if you see, for example, we say monocytes and macrophages. Both of them are same. If they are present in the tissues, we call it as macrophage. If it is present in the blood, we call it as the monocyte. Similarly, both mast cells as well as the basophils, they are same. Okay, but what is the difference? Let us see. So both mast cells and the basophils, they are having the Fc receptor for IgE, as well as both of them are having the same cytoplasmic mediators. So how we will say that the basophils are different from from the mast cells. And this is a very important Viva question, also a very important FMGE question, also a very, very important USMLE question. So in contrast to the mast cells, the basophils are not normally present in the tissues, but rather they circulate in the blood in extremely small numbers. So basophils are something which are present in the blood, whereas mast cells are present in the tissues. Okay. Now moving ahead, the mediators of immediate hypersensitivity reaction. This is a very, very important question. Sometimes you will just get a short note, mediators of immediate hypersensitivity, and in that situation this answer is ready for you. So you see, when I am saying why these lectures are very important, because from exam point of view this is very important, from FMG point of view it is very important, from next or any other competitive point of examination this is very important. Mediators of immediate hypersensitivity reaction. So as we all know that first there is a mast cell activation, followed by its degranulation. First, there is a release of certain preformed mediators, followed by de novo synthesis and release of secondary mediators. So what is the meaning of preformed? So there are certain mediators which are already formed from before. So that is already there from before. Okay. And these mediators are released almost instantaneously. They are released. And once these are released, they cause the reactions of immediate hypersensitivity. But after their release also there is a de novo. What is de novo? De novo means from new. De novo means again there is newly synthesized mediators. Again the mediators are synthesized. Okay. For example, I will just give you one simple example. For example, you have a birthday party, and for example you had invited 10 guests. Instead of 10 guests, around 20 guests came, but you had prepared your food only for 10 guests. So whatever food you have prepared from before, that is the primary or preformed food. Okay, it's a preformed food. But after the coming of guest, you realized I need to make more food. That is the de novo synthesis of more food. Okay, so this is the basic difference. Now let us read about the preformed mediators. Means those mediators which have been formed from before. So there are three main types. One is the vasoactive amine, one is the enzymes, one is proteoglycans. So first, reading about the vasoactive amine, we are having the most important is histamine, and we have already read about the functions of histamine in the chapter on inflammation. Just we are revising. So the most important is histamine, which causes intense smooth muscle contraction, increased vascular permeability, increased mucus secretion by the nasal, bronchial and the gastric glands. Now looking at the enzymes, there are two important enzymes. One of them is neutral protease, another is acid hydrolases, and these two enzymes are involved in tissue damage and generation of kinins as well as activation of the complement components. Okay. Now thirdly, we are having proteoglycans. Now there are two proteoglycans. One is heparin sulfate, one is chondroitin sulfate, and their basic role is serves to pack and to store the amines. That is the histamine that is formed. They serve to store them. They serve to pack the histamines. Okay. So this is all about the preformed mediators. Secondly, we are having the lipid mediators. Sometimes the question will be just like this. Discuss the lipid mediators which are, or what is the role of lipid mediators in type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. So first of all, again under lipid mediators we are having two division, and there is a reason for that. You can see these are leukotrienes and we have prostaglandins. Both of them are derived from arachidonic acid, whereas the platelet activating factor, if you see, they are not derived from arachidonic acid, though it is a lipid mediator. So among the leukotrienes, the most important is the LTC4 and D4. Now we have read about this function already in detail in chapter inflammation. We are here just re-revising. So these are the most potent vasoactive and spasmogenic agent. These are 1000 times more potent than histamine, and they also increase the vascular permeability just like histamine, and they will also cause bronchial smooth muscle contraction. Now LTB4 on the other hand, as we have read, they are chemotactic. Okay, they attract the neutrophils, eosinophils and the monocytes. On the other hand, the prostaglandins, they are the most abundant mediator which is produced by the mast cells by the COX pathway. As you will all know that prostaglandins are produced by the COX pathway, and leukotrienes, they are produced by the LOX pathway. Okay, and they cause intense bronchospasm and increases the mucus secretion. Now lastly, we are having the platelet activating factor. So it is produced by some mast cells, but it is not derived from arachidonic acid, and this is how they are different from leukotrienes and prostaglandins. But PAF is also a lipid mediator. What is the role? They cause platelet aggregation, histamine release, bronchospasm, increased vascular permeability and vasodilatation. Now moving ahead, the third important mediator of type 1 hypersensitivity reaction are the cytokines. They are released from the mast cells, and what are the cytokines which are released? They are interleukin 1, TNF and chemokine. What is their role? They basically promote the leukocyte recruitment, which is typical in the late phase of reaction. And another one is interleukin number 4, whose main function is to amplify the T helper 2 response. Now moving ahead, just to summarize, okay, what we have read. So this is the mast cell, this is the antigen, this is the IgE antibody which is present on the surface of the mast cell, and here is the IgE Fc receptor present on the surface of mast cell. So once there is sensitization, which is followed by antigen which is coming over here, it leads to degranulation of the mast cell. There is a granule content which is released. What is released? Histamine and proteases. Again, the membrane phospholipids are also released, okay, and here there is the arachidonic acid and PAF synthesis. Arachidonic acid synthesis leads to synthesis of prostaglandins and leukotrienes, which is followed by an immediate response which is characterized by vasodilatation, vascular leakage, smooth muscle spasm. Okay. Along with this, there is a secretion of cytokines which we just read. The cytokines and the chemokines are released, which is responsible for the late phase response, which is composed of leukocyte recruitment, epithelial damage and bronchospasm. So this bronchospasm is not only caused by the chemokines and cytokine, but also by LT, C4, D4 as well as B4. Okay, so if this is clear, let us move ahead. Now we come to the late phase reaction. Till now we were reading about the immediate reaction. So in the late phase reaction, as we know, there is a recruitment of the inflammatory cells. So leukocytes are recruited that will amplify and sustain the inflammatory response without any additional exposure to the triggering antigen. Now the most abundant leukocyte population in this reaction, so here is another important MCQ, that is eosinophils. And these are recruited to the sites of immediate hypersensitivity reaction by certain chemokines. Most important is eotaxin, another important MCQ. Now the T helper 2 cytokine, okay, the T helper 2 cells is releasing a cytokine, that is interleukin number 5, and it is the most potent eosinophil activating cytokine which is known. Again, a very important MCQ. So on activation, the eosinophil is releasing proteolytic enzymes, major basic proteins, eosinophilic cationic proteins, that is going to damage the tissues. Okay. Also, the late phase reaction is also a major cause of symptoms in type 1 hypersensitivity disorder, for example allergic asthma. Okay, so remember that late phase reaction comes late, okay, and it is not a major form in any kind of hypersensitivity, type 1 hypersensitivity reaction, but late phase reaction can be very prominent in certain hypersensitivity reaction, example allergic asthma. Therefore the treatment of choice in late phase reaction is steroids and not antihistaminic, because antihistaminic can be useful only in the immediate form of type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. Okay, why? Because in type 1 the major amine that is released, or the major mediator, is the histamine. So we can use antihistaminics, but in late phase reaction we have to use steroids. Okay. Development of allergies, again very important. How allergy is developing, okay, because not everyone is having, there are certain people who is having, right? So there are many factors which is responsible. So the susceptibility to the immediate hypersensitivity reaction is genetically determined. So there is some genetic component. What is atopy? So increased propensity to develop immediate hypersensitivity reaction is called atopy. Okay, and such individuals are called as atopic individuals, and these people, these people, that is atopic individuals, they are having increased serum IgE and increased interleukin 4 producing T helper 2 cells. Now a person who is atopic, they always have a positive family history is present in 50% of atopic individuals. So first let me make it clear to you what is the meaning. For example, if you see in your class, there is always that one friend whose eyes is always red, always he is doing like this, always he will have a running nose, always he will carry a handkerchief and he will be cleaning his nose all the time. Okay, so what I am saying, that such individuals are called as atopic individuals, and if you ask such friends, he will give you that 50% of such individual will say that yes, in my family, my brother, my cousin, or my mom or my dad, somewhere down him family, someone is also having such allergy. So this is what I want to say. And why does it happen? Why there is a positive family history? That means that there is certain genetic component over here. So there is certain polymorphism or variations in several genes in such individuals. individuals. Some of this polymorphism is present in chromosome number 5q31, okay, which helps in encoding the various cytokines like interleukin 3, 4, 5, interleukin 9, 13 and granulocyte monocyte colony stimulating factor, and other genes where such polymorphism exists is chromosome number 6p. Now there are certain environmental factors that are also important in development of allergic disease. For example, if certain person is having a viral infection, it can trigger bronchial asthma. For example, bacterial infections can trigger atopic dermatitis. Okay, so certain environmental role is also there. So there is a genetic role, there is an environmental role as there. Moving ahead, 20 to 30% of individuals that is suffering from type 1 hypersensitivity reaction is because of a non-atopic stimulus. Non-atopic means there is not a genetic component. For example, extremes of temperature. If you go into a very cold place, or if you go into a very warm place, or if you do a very excessive exercise, again you will have some kind of allergy. But a very important thing over here is that these are not involving the T helper 2 cells or IgE. Therefore we call it as non-atopic allergy or non-atopy allergy. Now there is also a very important thing called as an hygiene hypothesis, a favorite examination question, viva question. Okay, so in what is hygiene hypothesis? In a very simple way I will tell you. For example, people who are living in the developing countries, okay, they are exposed to multiple infectious agents from when they are child. Okay, so what happens, because they have combated or because they are exposed to multiple antigens, their immune system, okay, they learn, okay, the immune system become very strong. They know multiple antigens and we have multiple antibodies in their bodies. Okay, so they can combat a wider range of antigens. But for example, some person who is there from America or from first developed country, okay, first world countries, so that environment is very clean, infections are so less, so in their body, their immune system, they don't recognize many antigens. So if such people from first world countries will come to India or to any third world country or to any developing country, okay, then those people will suffer from a lot of infections, okay, and their immune system is not that strong to combat. So this is called as hygiene hypothesis. So the lesser is your hygiene, the better is your immune system. This is what I want to say. So in early childhood and even prenatal exposure to microbial antigen, it will educate the immune system in such a way that subsequent pathological response against the common environmental allergens are prevented. Means if a person from third world country will go to America, okay, his immune system will not react many, okay, he will not have many allergic reaction because already his body can recognize 1,000 different types of antigens. But if a person from a first world country like America will come to India, he will have a lot of allergy. All the time he will be covering his nose, all the time he will be covering his eyes, all the time he will have a lot of allergies. Why? Because his body, his immune system have not encountered many antigens. So when he came to a third world country, he encountered many antigens and he had a lot of response, okay, lot of immune response, lot of allergic reaction. This is called as a hygiene hypothesis. Now moving ahead, systemic anaphylaxis at the level of our body. So systemic anaphylaxis is characterized by vascular shock, widespread edema and difficulty in breathing. So what are the triggers? Okay, foreign antigens like anti-sera, even if we take small amount of anti-sera, that means plasma containing antibodies. Okay, for example, we inject small amount of hormones in our body, that is in our bloodstream. Certain enzymes we are injecting, some polysaccharides we are injecting, or certain drugs like antibiotic, like penicillin we are giving, or certain peanut allergies or shellfish allergies, means food allergies. All these can trigger, okay, these are triggers for anaphylaxis even in minute quantities in a sensitized individual, okay. And the basic clinical features is that they will present with itching, hives, skin erythema, means you will have a lot of scratch. All the body will have redness and you will have scratch, you will have blisters. There will be contraction of the respiratory bronchioles leading to respiratory distress. Plus there will be laryngeal edema, and laryngeal edema will be characterized by hoarseness of the voice, plus further there is a compromised breathing, and this can also be associated with vomiting, abdominal cramps, diarrhea, laryngeal obstruction. Ultimately the person can die because of shock and death. Now the last leg is that we want to discuss about the various examples of the disorders which are caused by immediate hypersensitivity reaction. So there are various clinical syndromes and these are very important. So you can give them as a basic example. So the clinical syndrome like anaphylaxis, which may be caused by drugs, bee sting, as well as food allergy, as we already read before, it is characterized by fall in blood pressure. Why? Because of shock which has developed. Why? Because of vasodilatation. Again, these people are having airway obstruction also because of the laryngeal edema. Okay, so they will be having respiratory distress as well. Second important clinical syndrome is bronchial asthma, which is characterized by airway obstruction due to bronchial smooth muscle hyperactivity. And there is also inflammation and tissue injury by late phase reaction in bronchial asthma. Also, there is allergic rhinitis or sinusitis, okay, that is hay fever, that leads to increased mucus secretion, inflammation of the upper airways as well as sinuses. And the food allergies, as we spoke about, they increase the peristalsis because of contraction of the intestinal muscles. So this is all about the immediate hypersensitivity reaction. Hope you have learned with me about type 1 hypersensitivity reaction, and I'm sure that you can answer all the questions, whether it be MCQs, whether it be short answers, whether it be long answers, whether it be certain Viva questions, all of them you can answer very well. If you have enjoyed the lectures, please do subscribe and please do share with those who need these lectures. Thank you very much, guys, and God bless you all. Thank you very much. Stay tuned. I will come with further and more lectures. Thank you very much.